everybody. This is Dianne.
And this is Marnell.
And you are here for another episode of Biters Fear the Walking Dead.
Season 3, episode 11, La Serpiente.
Which we were right. It means the serpent. I mean, that was pretty obvious.
The snake, yeah.
Yeah. So, let's just start out. What was your rating?
I rated it 3.45 magical beeping keychains.
Was that a nod to Thomas O'Mara?
That is a nod to Thomas O'Mara. Because at first I was like, okay, like that's one of those things where like you have the thing where you can locate your keys, you know, like one of those little tiles. You have the thing and you're like, oh, I lost my keys. So you press the button and your keys beep and they're on the couch or whatever, you know. But he actually pressed the keychain and made it beep. And it was miraculously loud enough to draw all of the walkers away from the giant idling truck.
Okay, so we're still totally doing rotting potpourri first. But
no, but that was why
I know.
Keychain.
I know. I didn't think it was a terrible strategy. I'm with you. I'm not sure that it would have been loud enough over the herd to actually be heard.
The strategy is great because you've seen that in a lot of zombie movies and a lot of zombie video games where you do have something for a distraction, whether it's like fireworks or little popper, you know, the black cat fireworks that, you know, pop, 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 pop. Or a boombox or something, you know, you can distract them in another way, but I don't think the beeping keychain would have been enough, but I digress.
Well, we knew we were going to digress with that rating, right?
Right.
So I rated it 3.125 out of 5 senses of tragedy.
Oh.
I do still love me some Victor Strand.
You know, the man is a walking fortune cookie, and I will talk about that later. I love it.
That's so funny, because I think we will talk about that later.
Oh, good.
So I looked at the numbers for last week for the mid-season premiere, and neither episode made the Live Plus Same Day Top 25, but I have to be fair to Fear the Walking Dead and say that the bulk of the things that were in cable top 25 was Weather Channel coverage of Irma.
That's kind of fair.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I would say probably 3/4 of the top 25 was Weather Channel coverage.
Fictional zombie apocalypse, real apocalypse. You know? I think I'm going to watch the real one that's about to happen to me.
You know, I have to admit, I'm not even a weather freak, and I watched more of that coverage than I thought I would, so...
I hate watched some of the news channels because...
Because you were waiting for the anchors to get killed?
My joke
maimed?
is like, you can just... you can copy the footage from last year of some dude standing out in the middle of a, you know, street in downtown whatever city who's like trying not to get blown away, and you can hear every third word that he's saying into his microphone. He's getting pelted with rain. I mean, it's the same footage year after year after year. It just happened to be so much worse this year, and it was on every single channel, and they were in multiple places. They were in different parts of, you know, Florida and you know, the Caribbean and things like that, and they're simultaneously telling people that like you should have evacuated by now, blah blah blah, while standing there. Like,
well, and that was the thing that was ridiculous to me, is they kept saying, don't come out in the weather, we're doing this so you don't have to.
Yeah, it's like, no, just show us some footage from last year and say it's way worse this year, you know? So I admittedly hate watched a whole bunch of it just because I'm like, you people are idiots.
So you and I are partially responsible for the lack of Fear the Walking Dead in the top 25 of cable.
Yeah, but we watched it.
We did. And I was going to say, I'm not sure that I watched it same day. I don't think I did. I think I watched it the next day. So
I watched it same day.
But the numbers were pretty consistent. So Fear the Walking Dead Wiki always has numbers with the episodes for live view. Actually, I'm not sure if it was live or live plus same day. I think it was live view. Pardon me, live view. But both Minotaur and the Diviner had 2.14 million viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, that's pretty consistent with where Walking Dead, or Fear the Walking Dead is falling.
Well, and weren't they up against the Emmys last night? Not that anyone watches the Emmys.
No. So these are for last week, for the mid-season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We don't have I don't have numbers for tonight's.
Okay. Well, I'm not expecting miracles because the Emmys.
Well, and it sounds like the Emmys got some pretty heavy viewing, so.
Yeah. Yeah, the parts that I did catch were funny. So, and there was a lot of there's a lot of really cool shows up. By the way, Walking Dead did not win any of the Emmys they were nominated for.
But they were nominated. I mean, that's kind of a nice change.
Yeah, like Nicotero and everybody were nominated for Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead had no nominations, so.
I understand. I saw on Walking Dead Cast's Facebook page that Jeffrey Dean Morgan and his longtime love are pregnant.
Ooh, congratulations to them.
Yeah. That came out as a part of their attendance at the Emmys last night.
I really hope he makes Daryl the Godfather. They can have another little ass kicker in the Walking Dead family.
That would be super funny.
Right?
I'm missing the main show. I posted on the on our Facebook page tonight that October 22nd is coming fast. Thank goodness.
Yes. What is that? 5-6 weeks?
Mm-hmm. And you and Brian are going to be taking the first 2 episodes because I'm going to be traveling.
And then I will be traveling shortly thereafter that. So we'll have a mixture, and then maybe at some point we'll get the band back together.
Well, if it happens on Walking Dead, it can happen to our little podcast.
There is a great commercial. I'm going to totally go off topic. There's a great commercial on the Sci-Fi Network right now, and it's like zombies, spaceships, blah, everything that has to do with sci-fi, robots, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like no matter what else you have opinions about that don't jive, everybody can agree on something, sci-fi related. And, it's like we always say, the Walking Dead always bring us all together regardless of our politics or our opinions or things like that. Our love for The Walking Dead brings us together.
The Walking Dead family is real.
It is. It is. So.
All right. So writers, it was actually writers this time. So we've talked about this guy before. His name is Mark Richard. And he worked on Fear the Walking Dead and on Hell on Wheels. And I found out tonight that he is also a novelist and a writer of prize-winning short story collections.
Huh.
His novel is Fish Boy, which I didn't look it up, but it sounds like it sold pretty well when it was released. So there you go. Some reading for you.
Interesting.
And he co-wrote the episode with a woman named Lauren Signorino. She worked on Flight 462 and Passage. So that's kind of her relationship to Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay.
There wasn't a whole heck of a lot else about her on IMDb.
Yeah.
And then the director, this was kind of funny. So I was like, oh, great, I get to slaughter a name in 3 languages. Joseph Kubota Wiladka and
wow.
Wladika. So he's Japanese and Polish.
That's an interesting combo.
I know, right? And so this is his first Fear the Walking Dead credit. He has some credits on Narcos, which, did you hear about what happened to their point men?
Yeah.
So shout out to the people who produce and create Narcos. They actually lost one of their forward scouts, murdered in Mexico.
Well, scouting a location for the show.
Super sad.
Yeah. Be safe, guys.
Yeah.
The Southwest desert and stuff in the U.S. looks strikingly similar to Mexico. You can bring the jobs home.
Well, and it's supposed to be fiction, not fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that's pretty terrible.
But anyway, so this guy has credits there, and I think his connection to the writers is that he actually worked as crew on Hell on Wheels.
Okay.
So, And of course, Hell on Wheels was on AMC, so there's that whole tie there.
Yeah.
Then title. So the title is obviously the serpent that Daniel accuses Strand of being.
Yes. The snake.
The snake. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I was kind of thinking about the bigger imagery of the snake in the Bible because, you and I are doing the whole preacher thing. And, I mean, when you think about it, the serpent is the liar, the deceiver, the entity that created the chaos in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
And so I think it's interesting that that's kind of how Salazar views Strand.
Well, I think we all at one point have viewed Strand that way. We all knew that he was a shady character right from the get-go, sitting in the cell with Nick, in a 3-piece suit with $1,000 cufflinks. Yeah. So we all knew that he was a slick character. So I think from an outward perspective, La Serpiente is an apt nickname for him. But underneath it all, I think he's a good guy with good intentions. I think he's had to survive so much on his own using, whatever he could for so long that, it's hard for him to, he's a feral dog and they're trying to, stick him into a home. So.
Well, so this is kind of jumping ahead and I don't want to give too much away, but I think he and Madison are kind of cut from the same cloth.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she is also La Serpiente.
Yes, I think that would fit very well. Yes.
So, did you have anything else on the title?
I didn't. I think it was just the reconnection of Madison's group with Victor, with Daniel. That's the first time Daniel and Madison have seen each other since the fire.
Right.
Yeah. So, for as blah as I kind of think the episode was, I'm like, there was an important part. We're reconnecting, the Salazars with each other at some point and with the main group. And so, yeah.
There were definitely some good parts. I mean, overall I was kind of meh about the episode too, but there were some parts that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, I have to all credit to Coleman Domingo. He is probably one of the reasons that I keep watching.
Yeah, I really think that knowing what we know now, if I were one of the writers, if I knew then what I know now, I think I would have made his character a bigger character rather than Madison. And I know that we've been over this, they wanted a female-centric lead and blah, blah, blah. But, feminism is always the best person for the job, not just the best woman for the job.
Oh my goodness. How progressive are you?
Right. Right. I'm willing to say that the Victor would have been a better focal point for the show.
Well, I think they're definitely moving him into that role.
I hope so.
So, did you have a particular featured cast member in mind?
I was thinking Lola.
Good on you. That's what I did too.
Yay! Okay.
So Lola is a woman named Lissandra Tina. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. The character is Lola Guerrero. And it looks like the only other... her IMDb page is really sketchy too. There's really not very much on it.
It's very sparse.
Yeah. Yeah. But it looks like she had credits on Chicago PD.
Mm-hmm.
She was on Talking Dead, so I kind of wrote down a couple of the things that I remembered from watching Talking Dead. She actually said that she was going to school when the original series premiered. And she has been a fan since the premiere of the original series. And she said that she read ahead in the comic books and was like, there's a Latina in the comic books. I could possibly become her when I get out of school. And she was talking about Rosita. So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not much else. I mean, I didn't find much else on her.
Yeah. Her IMDb page is very, very sparse. So, but what's funny is looking at her biography photo and the photos of her. She looks much younger in the photos than they kind of portray her as in Fear.
She did on Talking Dead also. In fact, she kind of has this classic 1940s appearance.
Huh.
The way that she wears her hair, the way that her makeup is done. She was very lovely.
Interesting.
Yeah. So not much about Lola, and I'm not sure how much longer Lola is going to be with us, but I agree with you. I thought that she was a good person to look at tonight because we've seen quite a bit of her in the last couple of episodes.
Well, she is coming out in a comedy TV miniseries called Sex Parties, so...
that probably means that Lola isn't going to be with us for very much longer.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, and we will get into that, too.
Well, so that kind of leads into your good. What was your good?
My good was what we were talking about earlier, that little moment between Strand and Madison, Victor and Madison, where they're sitting on the beds and they're chatting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been a good before, where it's been an interaction with just the two of them having, real conversations and a period of rest and like, kind of being funny and laughing and just the moment between them. I think they really, really click. I like seeing those two together.
They have really amazing chemistry together.
Yeah, and they work as a team really well. When they work together, they get stuff done. Like, she lights a fire under him, and he keeps her from making rash decisions. Somehow,
I like that.
Somehow, these two, like, who can't work well on their own, work well together.
And can't work well with others necessarily.
They can't work, yeah. And I mean, look at the people that she's chosen to work with, before or since her and Victor parted ways. She just doesn't have the best decision making skills, and I really think together they're a whole brain.
Or maybe a whole heart. I mean, they're both very smart, and they're smart individually, but maybe they're a whole heart. Okay,
I'll go with that. Because then I can be like, if I only had a brain. But yeah, so I really liked that he joked with her like, but you had a perm back then,
Yeah.
And it just, and I like how Victor, she's like, what do you see? Who do you see yourself as? And he's like, someone who doesn't let their friends down.
I love that. I thought that was a great quote. And there were some other things that were attributed to Strand that I didn't like so much. I thought they gave him some kind of lame lines this time, but I loved that. I thought that was really awesome.
I think the writers had Chinese that night and they opened a bunch of fortune cookies. I wrote a bunch of these down because
good. I'm glad you did.
I really, really like them. So we'll go into that a little later.
Very good.
So that was my good. What was yours?
Well, my good was that we kind of ended with a détente, with a bit of a peace accord between a lot of the conflicted characters in this episode. So we saw Walker smiling at them and getting at Madison and Strand and getting into the tanker truck with them.
Yeah, I thought that was ironic after Victor and Walker. Victor's like, everything's funny to you, and then you see him at the end smiling.
But, I really liked it because I felt like it was genuine, and I felt like there was a genuine moment of connection there.
And Madison didn't rub it in his face. She was just like, hey, you thirsty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was that moment of détente between Daniel and Victor. I mean, I actually really totally expected Daniel to refuse to shake Victor's hand.
Me too.
So when he did, I felt like that is true for Daniel. He is being sincere in this because he's the type of person who, if he was not going to strike up a peace with Victor, he would have refused to shake his hand.
Well, and what he said to Strand earlier, just for some reason, that little tiny, like 25-second scene of those two looking out from the dam, and Daniel was like, hey, if you got something planned and it benefits us both, I'm willing to look the other way, but if you double cross me, you're in my sights. So I think that he's like, Strand's kind of my only option. Nobody else here gets it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that he's putting some tentative trust into Strand.
So I think in some way, looking at that, this group of survivors is more pragmatic than our group of survivors in the original series.
Yes.
These guys are a little more down and dirty, will make these relationships work, even though we don't really like each other. And there's not so much of that in the original group.
No.
They have this really tight kind of all or nothing bond.
Yeah, and I think it was pointed out several times in the episode by Lola around
Ophelia?
No, around Daniel. That the killing, he's killed for her, and he's and we know that Madison's killed. We know that Strand is killed. I mean, they've all cut their teeth. They're all kind of, there's a few parts that they're missing out on, like one of the things that bugs me anytime I see it in either of the series is when you let walkers build up on a chain link fence. They've learned a lot of lessons. There's still a lot that they need to learn. And like we've said before, we compare this show into itself. We try not to compare it to Walking Dead Prime. So, because these guys aren't, how many months are we out in the Fear? We're not even a year.
Are we not even a year out? I can't figure it out. I'm not quite sure what the time frame is.
And we might be a year considering we're in season 3, but it just doesn't seem like it between the boat and then
the farm. Well,
yeah,
I don't know if calling it the farm was right, but the place where Abby lived.
Right. And then now we're at the ranch and everything. I really don't feel like it's been a year, but that's me. I know that the southern part of our continent does not really have a fall, winter, spring, summer,
Well, neither do we.
Neither do we. Yeah. We went from fall to we had a sprinter. We did not have a summer here.
That's funny.
We've had so much rain. Luckily our ground can take it. Yeah. But yeah, so it's hard for me to judge time. But I think they've learned a lot fairly quickly. We've seen them struggle through it. So I think we're getting a good group together. Finally.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm not 100% behind this series, but there are definitely some great moments.
Yeah.
And I have to say that, again, the bulk of them happen when Victor Strand is on the screen. But
and I'm hoping if we can get Daniel away from the dam, that he seems to have changed. I mean, he was willing to let his daughter Ophelia just go on thinking he was dead in order to fulfill his obligation to Lola. So of course that's by the wayside now, but.
And he seems to have changed, but then he was singing the same tune that all of the people who were storming the dam were. I mean, he was kind of singing the whole "Down with the Water Queen," and I was like, wait a minute.
We'll talk about that. Lola's in my stuff to talk about.
All right, so go on to your bad.
My bad is Lola.
Oh, well, there we go. That's a good transition.
So I don't know what her deal is. I don't know what her end game is. I don't know what her plan is. I mean, okay, so they're taking the water and they're taking trucks of water out to the villages and distributing the water to the people. At the same time, she's holding the dam back so that the water doesn't flow through the rivers. And she's saying it's better to distribute the water in the trucks instead of through the river because it'll just evaporate in the river. But it's, of course, sitting there evaporating in the giant lake, too. And we're gonna run out of diesel. Like, I mean, that's just not a feasible long-term solution. I would be looking at building some sort of infrastructure or moving people closer to the water source, or, finding out some way to, do some water irrigation to plant crops, because it seems like they're just distributing the water just to distribute the water. They're not getting anything in return. And not like I would be, demanding trade like it originally had started out, where people had to come and trade whatever they had for the water. But it's like, look, we're keeping the dam safe. We're making sure it's functional. We're bringing you water. How about a basket of tomatoes, How about, trying to find us some fuel or some antibiotics or chipping in something? Do it, kind of a donation instead of a trade, maybe. Like, because I don't know where her long-term plan is in this. I don't know where they're getting their food, and I just, why does she want to be like the water queen? Why? I don't see how she thinks she's preserving this and making it better for everybody.
So I think she's got two really different voices in her ears right now. She's got Daniel, who is pragmatic to the point of being a bit of a mercenary.
Right.
Who I think would be very close to the way that the dam was originally run if he had his way. And then on the complete opposite side, she's got the moral compass, so we know he's not going to be long for this world. Ephraim.
Right. Yeah.
Ephraim. I don't know
Ephraim. Yeah.
But, so I think that she's getting conflicting messages, and I think she doesn't know her own heart. The other thing is, and this was from the actress, and I didn't really realize this piece of her history until I was watching Talking Dead, but apparently Lola's role at the dam before the apocalypse was basically to be a person who purified the water and who monitored the water and made sure it got to the people. So I think there's still some of that motivating her.
But it's like she can't see tomorrow. I mean, at some point, they're going to run out of diesel for the trucks. At some point, the truck is going to break down. At some point...
I agree with you, but most of the characters at this point can't see tomorrow.
I guess. I mean, I would be going into the cities and being like, okay, this is unsustainable. What we are doing is unsustainable. We need to come up with solutions to get you the water that you need. We're willing to give this stuff away for free, but we need to, for God's sakes, the Romans had aqueducts, I mean, can we start working on something like that? I'm sure there's plenty of piping and tubing and stuff in the area. Like, I don't know how they think they're going to keep it all together. And she's in complete, and of course she hasn't gone out on the water run, so she's in complete denial about.
Well, but she was on the water run last time, and she got stoned. Remember, they crowd threw rocks at her.
Right,
yeah.
And she's in complete denial about how the people feel. I'm just, and she's holding it so tightly that she's squeezing it to death. She's trying to hold on so tight that it's just going to slip through her fingers. I don't know what is in this woman's mind. She needs to listen. She needs to listen to her advisors. And I'm not saying she needs to listen to either two, like Daniel or Ephraim, that are talking to her. She needs to go to the people and be like, what is your solution? And if they come up with a solution and she can say, well, no, that's not going to work because I worked on the dam and XYZ, but everyone is in the dark, everyone just assumes she's just just sitting on this water and, and not wanting to distribute it. I mean, she's not even wanting to trade it with Madison's group because of how it'll look. But if you can go to the people and explain to them that, look, we're trading with them because they have something useful to trade for. They have fuel, they have cattle, they have guns, which I'm not so sure the people would be happy about, but, they have whatever else they trade for. And in turn, that will help us, I mean, maybe when the diesel trucks run out, we're going to have cattle walking the water back and forth to the towns, So I'm like, you can do better.
I think you assume she can converse with the people that they're delivering water to, though, and at this point, it doesn't look like that's the truth. It looks like things are fractured enough.
She waited too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. She let it get unmanageable. And maybe she needs to pick one person from each. I mean, this is how governments get created. Society breaks down. We're all, go crazy for a little while. And then, a warlord or a leader of a township or something goes to be the one that speaks for the interest of the people in that area. And suddenly we have mayors and things like that. So what needs to happen is she needs to have someone brought in from one of the towns and sit them down and be like, this is our problems. We would like your input on solutions and, go from there. I don't know.
I think that Walker and Madison are going to make things crazy enough that that's not going to happen.
Don't we hope? Somebody is going to go in there and they're going to take that from Lola by force. Madison said that she admired Lola for not opening herself up to that part of herself, basically killing or going to war for the dam. And Madison said she admired her, and I'm like, I don't.
But she also was very clear about that being a flaw. Madison was.
It can and it can't be. I mean, you have to keep the peace somehow. And, otherwise you have things like what happened with Strand happened, where he actually orchestrated the explosion, and now she's blaming these quote unquote, rebels or whatever they're going to call them. And that this is how it breaks down, is lines of communication break down. And it just,
I'm find that I'm disagreeing with your fundamental premise. I don't think those lines of communication are there. I don't think that organization is there.
No, I don't think it was there. I think it should have been in place long before. Because, I mean, what was her long-term solution? Just keep delivering water in trucks?
Well, I mean, I think the other thing, to be fair, is that I don't think she's been in control of this for very long, because they overthrew, what was it, Diego?
Yeah, that's very valid.
So, I mean, I think that they're just in survival mode right now.
That's very valid. But yeah, they had to, it's one of those where if it wasn't broke, she wasn't going to fix it. And she was waiting for something to break. She was waiting for, no more diesel, no more, a truck throws a rod or, something like that, or, and then what do we do? You have to plan ahead. I don't know. Lola is not long for this world, and she is not going to be the water queen for very much longer.
Well, and Madison, Victor, and Walker are here, and they're going to break stuff. So,
so I took a whole bunch of time up for my bad. So, what was yours?
Well, mine was relatively small, but I think you're going to expound upon it. I didn't like the lines that they gave Victor. They had him speaking in cliches. The uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. They have him saying all of these ridiculous kind of cliched things. I don't know, to somehow make himself sound more wise or maybe a little removed. And I love the character, so I think they're doing him a disservice when they have him doing things like that.
Well, and that to me, he's in a situation where he is trying to wheel and deal. And so he falls back into that charming, fortune cookie guy that, I mean, these are great lines. These are, if you were an ad exec, you'd be pitching these for that person's product. Or if you were a politician, this is what your hats would say, or,
No, they're too cliched.
The uneasy is the head that wears the crown is one I wrote down. And right before that, he said, dissatisfaction breeds dissent. Dissent leads to revolt. You not wanting Daniel to be right is not making him wrong.
Well, and so I know that the uneasy is the head. Uneasy lies the head. That is a direct swipe from something, and I'm gonna find out. It's a literature reference.
It's like Shakespeare or something.
Yeah, it's from King Henry IV.
Ah, look at me. I'm all book learned.
So, I think part of it probably comes from Victor's background attempting to appear refined. So he's like, if I just throw this Shakespeare quote out here, everyone will think I'm really refined. But
right.
I don't know. It just didn't sit well with me.
And so, this is back to classic Strand. I mean, pre-apocalyptic Strand.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to wheel and deal, and sometimes it works. And obviously, it got him in trouble enough that I still really want to know what he did. That it took all of that gold to buy it back. That was a lot of gold.
It was a lot of gold.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but. He wasn't the only one with cheesy cool lines.
So who else had cheesy cool lines?
When Madison and Lola were talking, and Lola had just offered Madison to come have her family and
live and work at the dam.
Yeah, live and work at the dam. She said it's rare that a leader does right by everyone, and Madison said it's not rare, it's impossible. Which is true. I mean, you can't make everyone happy all of the time. I mean, they're going to bring the water back, and there's going to be some sort of, okay, we're going to get 10,000 gallons a week until the rains come back, but somebody's really not going to like trading all those guns for it.
I think that's going to be the main bellyache. Trading the guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you watch the Coming Up Next Time On?
I did not.
So there's a part where Jake and Alicia are talking about the cattle. It looks like there's a walker break-in the ranch, and Jake and Alicia are talking, and he's like, I didn't really want to be a cattle rancher anyway. And she said, if we get through all this, I'll get you as many cows as you want or something. So it kind of sounds like maybe they lost some cows.
Which is part of what they're trading.
Right. It's part of their bargaining power. So, it's impossible to keep everyone happy all of the time. So.
It's the zombie apocalypse.
It is. And I'm going, there's probably 10% of humans left standing, humans left with heartbeats on the earth. Why is there such a fight for resources?
Because we don't have the technology to distribute those resources or to glean those resources.
I guess that's where growing up and living in Alaska comes in handy, because we had a moose out at our glacier for the very first time, since I lived here in 37 years. Moose were hunted out of Juneau, and they've started coming back. You're not allowed to hunt them, of course, and especially within 500 feet of a road, which, is just about everywhere here. But so we've had a resurgence of the moose population here.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And, we have deer walking through our Safeway parking lot. Food and water would not be an issue here.
At least for a while. At least until it got hard to get those things.
You know,
There would be a point at which people would not be able to easily get water, or they would be out of bullets and they would not be able to easily get food.
there's plenty of fresh drinking water. Some of us know how to bow hunt. And some of us know how to preserve our meats, for long-term storage.
Look at you pretending to be a badass.
So the Department of Fish and Game up here offers these classes called Becoming an Outdoors Woman. And yes, it is open to men too, but it's specifically geared towards women. And they actually run a camp every year. It's a 3-day weekend out at it's actually a Bible study camp, but we don't do any Bible study out there. They just rent us the camp for 3 days.
You do Gretchen's kind of Bible study out there.
And so you can learn, there's a whole bunch of classes you can learn you sign up for. I mean, you can learn to go crabbing. You can learn to cook over a wood fire with a cast iron pot. And you can learn to go shotgunning. You can learn to field dress a deer, and I've taken a whole bunch of these classes, and they've actually started offering classes that are called Beyond Bow, where it's on Saturday, they'll sign up for a class. On Saturday, we'll all meet up. And you probably saw my Facebook the other day. We took a chainsawing class. Like, I know how to safely use a chainsaw now. I know how to take a chainsaw apart and put it all back together with it all like cleaned and oiled and sharpened. And we did everything. Like, yeah, we're getting there.
Okay, note to all of the biters out there, she is far more badass than I am. I could stitch up the wound. That's pretty much... I could stitch up the wound and fillet a salmon.
I love field dressing large game.
Oh my god. Okay, pathology. Come on, let's get back to the show.
But it's so funny. I sometimes watching the show, I feel so far removed from what they're experiencing, because I'm like, water isn't a problem here,
But if you realistically look at, say, if we have any listeners left in California, it's a huge problem for them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The further south you go, I think the more difficult it gets. I mean, you might have issue up here with the cold. I don't. As long as you have shelter and fire, you're fine.
Again, there are a lot of humans that wouldn't be able to do that once the technology's gone.
I just feel like Alaska is such a different ballgame.
I feel like sometimes we're too egotistical about being Alaskan.
Yeah. But,
all right, come on. Tell me you're good. Tell me you're ugly.
So my ugly. When they were doing the whole Shawshank Redemption thing in the sewer.
Yeah.
You get the reference?
Yeah.
Like, there were Andy Dufresne, like, crawling through that mile of crap.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, there's something behind us. And then everybody stops and turns around, flashes the flashlight, and waits. I'm like, there's something behind you. Keep moving. Right? I'm just, that annoyed me so bad. That was, Thomas, that was my magical beeping keychain, was like them, like waiting for what quote unquote, whatever was following them. What's following you. Whatever was following them to catch up. Like, who does that? Like, no, stop. Keep going forward. Don't stop. Keep going forward. Of course, then we had to run into the one that was conveniently wedged in there. Of course, it wasn't a skinny guy trying to get into the sewer. It was a big old guy trying to get in the sewer.
Well, he was also grotesquely bloated, like the well walker from season 2.
Right, which was funny because, like, there's no water. How was he bloated?
Well, but there was water. It was a moist, nasty sewer, and there was a ton of sewage backed up behind him.
That's very true. That was really gnarly. She dropped her flashlight and like rummaged around for it, and I'm like, nope, it's gone. I'm pretty sure that little trading post will have another flashlight. It'll be fine. But yeah, the whole thing, leaving the truck behind to go through.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a road to the dam. I'm pretty sure we've seen them use the road to the dam. We're leaving our water truck behind to go to the dam to get water. So how are we getting it back to the truck? Like,
and how are we going to get water to the truck?
Right. Like, yeah. I'm just like, why are we leaving the truck behind to push Herbie fully loaded so that we can go into the sewer? I had so many movie callbacks to the like this whole episode made me think of tons of other shows and stuff. I mean, Ephraim, he was one of my first crushes on TV. He played Jesse on Fame. Way back in the
my
day.
God, that is hilarious.
Right?
Oh my God.
That just killed me. I'm like, oh my God, he was one of my first crushes. Him and Patrick Stewart.
Oh my God, that is really funny.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the whole sewer thing, I did not understand why we were leaving the train. Yes, I understand that there was tons of cars on the road and there were tons of walkers on the road, but you know what? Roll over them. That was a pretty big truck. If you went slow, you could push the cars out of the way just fine. And the walkers weren't getting in. Roll up your windows. I did not understand why we were abandoning the truck to go into the sewer. And yeah, so that was my ugly.
Chris Hardwick was kind of rhapsodizing about how great the sewer scene was. And I was like, nah.
No. Yeah, it was unnecessary. Seriously, what was their plan when they get there? Oh, so we have this water truck that's 10 miles that way that we left. Can someone give us a ride to it? Can we take one of your water trucks and we'll leave ours and we'll switch? And I didn't know what the plan. My whole issue with this is I don't know what anyone's plan is. I'm like, where is your head? So that was my issue. That was my ugly.
Well, my ugly was actually a good ugly.
Okay.
Shipping Matastrand. So it's funny that you talked about strand wheeling and dealing because I really felt like that was actually the language that I used around him and Madison when they were talking in the sewage tunnels. And I just thought that his reaction when Madison said that she had Ophelia, basically, that she would be able to make his promise to Salazar come true. I just thought it was a really classic moment between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that was one of the moments that made me really feel like they are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And then I really liked the scene that you talked about earlier, which was the one where they're talking about, what does Madison want and what does Victor visualize as his future? And I thought it was really intimate and they connected so nicely. And I'm going back to, I think a relationship is going to develop between the two of them. I think it's more than just friends.
We have to come up with a better relationship name than that.
I thought Matastrand was good.
Strand is his last name.
I know,
so
but still.
Victor and Madison.
It doesn't have to be Victor and Madison. We all think of him as Strand.
I'm thinking Vixen.
Vixen.
Victor Madison. Vixen.
Oh, God.
VICTK something.
Oh, God, that's awful.
Vixen. I would totally throw up a Facebook poll on this one, but did you know that you cannot put a Facebook poll on a page anymore? It has to be in a group, and our Facebook page is not classified as a group.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I have been trying to figure out how to put a poll up on the group all day because I was wondering whose camp would you rather be in? Would you rather be in Walker's group? Would you rather be in Madison's group? Or would you rather be in Lola's group at the date?
I'd rather be in Walker's group at this point.
Yeah. He's a leader who will do what it takes for his people.
Yeah.
He's annoying a lot of times with that BS, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So now you have to do two polls, Matastrand or Vixen. I like Matastrand.
We We'll have to throw that up there. That is so funny.
All right, so it's time for rotting potpourri. Or maybe we should say mildewing sewer potpourri.
Poopery.
Oh, God, that's terrible. So I liked that Ophelia got kind of reintroduced because we saw a couple of things in Salazar that I didn't necessarily expect to see. So seeing him say that, it would probably be better if she continued to think I was dead, which I don't know how he would think that she would believe that, because Madison and Strand are not going to let her believe that. But the other thing is the fact that he would sacrifice seeing Ophelia again to fulfill his promise to Lola.
Well, and that was even before he talked to Walker about Ophelia.
Right. Wasn't that, I mean, that was kind of awful and terrible and fascinating all at the same time.
Yeah, I was super fascinated because, I mean, the whole backstory to Daniel is that he was this horrible torturer soldier dude, who, just cold-blooded killer and all these other like nasty things that he kind of hid away from his daughter. His daughter thought that he was this great loving daddy and nothing had ever been wrong. And
so I'm flashing back to that sweet, innocent, subdued Ophelia that we first met.
Yeah. And, this goes to my whole nature versus nurture thing. I mean, she was nurtured just fine, but she definitely is her father's daughter.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
So, that wasn't learned behavior. That came from somewhere. And I think Daniel knows that came from him. And whether or not he is with her, she's going to be like that. And I think that was his change of heart of okay, he's okay with her being at the meet and, he's going to be there and everything, is that I think he's like, okay, my daughter has kind of gone off the deep end and I think I might be able to pull her back.
And I think it might be because of me.
Yeah. And so if anybody has the tools to guide her, away, it would be him. So.
And I don't really, you had commented about him changing, and I think that it's very true that he, at some point, has tried to change, but I think the fact that we saw him doing the whole down with the Water Queen and, cutting a deal with Strand, he's not changing.
Yeah, and, I don't remember the previous episode of who shot first.
Greedo did.
But yeah, so this will be interesting because, some part of me thought that Daniel may have been even just a little proud that his daughter has become a survivor and a warrior and, has learn to live in this world.
I don't know. I think a bigger part of him is horrified.
Right. Yeah. Walker seemed far more proud.
Yes.
Of course, he was the one that benefited from it, but he spoke of her as if she was some warrior goddess, that saved his people, and it horrified Daniel. So, yeah, that was super interesting.
Speaking of getting the band back together, just kind of thinking about all of these characters coming back together, I was cleaning my Eagle Moss Walking Dead figurines today, and I have Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene all together, and I was like, oh, we're never going to see them together again. We're never going to see Abraham's army together again. It was very sad. It was a sad moment for me. Totally not related to fear at all.
In flashback only.
Right.
Or if you rewatch.
Which I'm thinking that a binge of season 7 is in order, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to go back and watch season 1 of Walking Dead Prime to see where it all started out and where, the development and everything. and kind of do a little bit of a comparison to where we were with Fear the Walking Dead, that whole, are we learning our lessons quicker, or, what aren't we learning? And, apparently nobody ever learns to not let them build up against fences. Or, I don't know, like, hey, hold on, something's following me. Stop.
Do you think this crew became harder faster?
Harder, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely harder.
Yep.
Yeah, and that, I think that's one of the things that gets me about Madison and Strand's kind of tender moments, is you don't see a lot of that with the adult characters. I mean, you see it with like Jake and Alicia and Nick, and somewhat of what's Jake's crazy brother? Troy. You see it a little bit with them, but like there aren't a lot of fun or tender moments in the show that kind of, sometimes that's just the glue that holds the chaos together. So
I'm flashing back on Carol like teasingly calling Daryl Pookie, and you don't see moments like that in this series. You're right. I mean, yeah. I would say that this exchange between Madison and Strand this time was the closest that we got to that.
Yeah. They're forming an army. They're not forming a bond.
Yeah. They're not forming a family.
Yep.
All right. What else in your rotting potpourri?
Would you have taken Lola up on her offer?
I am going to reserve judgment on that because I think it's still not off the table.
Yeah.
I think we may see the ranchers and the nation coalesce at the dam.
You think so?
I think there's a possibility.
You think when we lose the ranch, we all wind up at the dam?
Am I going to make it my bold prediction? No, but I think it's a possibility.
See, and I don't understand why people don't just like, I mean, yeah, I get it. There's infrastructure in town. There's roads and there's buildings that can be used and things like that. But I would just go pitch a tent on that lake.
I think the other thing is, though, people are creatures of habit, even in crises, and they hunker down with what's familiar.
We were just talking about this before the show and watching all of the coverage of Harvey's flooding and Irma's blowing people's house, literally blowing nations away in the Caribbean, and I was going through my house the other day, and it was like, that would really, really super suck, but there's not a whole lot that I could live without. And if I did get the evac order, I would make preparations for whatever I'm evacing for, whether, I mean, the south is flooding and the northwest is on fire, so you prep differently for both. But I would prep as much as I could to save as much as I could, but in all honesty, I'm just like, I don't know. I think that if I were one of these people, I could move away and move and settle someplace different, someplace better. And yeah, I don't think I would be that tied to a location if society broke down like it has.
Having been through my own crisis, I still don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Like if I had to go through the whole loss of our home and just being in that uncertainty again, I'm not sure what I would do.
And again, that goes back to the whole, as an Alaskan, I feel very, very insulated from whatever goes on in the lower 48, no matter what it is, whether it's a crazy election or, fires or floods or things like that. You don't see anything like that where I live. We don't have that kind of natural disaster. Even where Juneau is situated, if there's a horrible earthquake in Japan and we do happen to get a tsunami where we are situated, we are not going to see it. We have far too many islands in front of us that will act as a channel breaker for us. So I feel I lulled myself in what's probably a false sense of comfort, but we don't have tall buildings. We just had a 5.1 earthquake the other day, really close to us. And, it was like, I think we're having an earthquake. Either that or the dog is panting on the bed. It's nothing, we sort of feel invincible up here. And I just, it's crazy.
I don't. I worry about that sense of separateness, actually. I don't feel that way anymore.
I think you're a little more exposed at where you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just am a little more exposed in terms of the way I look at the world.
Well, the only
and I'm not accusing you of being provincial or narrow-minded or anything like that. It's just that, maybe 10 years on, I just have a little different sense of my surroundings. I don't know.
Well, and the only way in or out of Juneau is boat or plane. We're a peninsula, but they're protected forest. You can't build a road through or anything. Not that you'd want to go through some of the mountainous terrain, in the winter times, if they did build a road. So the only thing that in fact, there's actually a thing in our local newspaper right now about every once in a while our barges are late. We get all of our produce and dairy products and stuff barged in. And if the barge is late or stuck or whatever, our shelves on it's like a third world country. I mean, they're just empty of any fresh fruits or vegetables, breads, milk, anything perishable is gone. And you have to wait for the barge to come in. And the article was, how long would you survive if there were no more barges, And your lives would be different. My life would no longer consist of going to my 9 to 5-day a week job. It would probably be a lot of hunting and gathering. We would go back to that way.
I'm sorry. I'm just having a hard time with that tonight.
What part of it?
I don't know. Just the whole tough Alaskan. I'll stop going to my job and hunter gatherer, and I think we should move on.
Okay, but stick me down into the Southwest, and I am lost. I could never survive what they're surviving. I would have been gone halfway through season 1,
You'd have been bitten by an infected tick and that would have been the end of it.
That would have been the end of it. Yeah. We don't have snakes up here. We got a couple of venomous spiders that really won't kill you. They'll do some damage, but we don't have, our scary stuff are bears. I can handle bears. I don't do scorpions or snakes or black widows or any of those.
Bears declare themselves a little more.
Sometimes.
All right, Rotting Potpourri. I'm going to call you out because I got to get some charting done.
All right. So how many people do we think are back at the ranch? Is 10,000 gallons a week going to suffice?
I have no idea. I mean, Otto did do a bunch of calculations, and that, I am assuming, is what Madison is going off of. But his calculations only took into account the ranchers. It did not take into account Walker's people.
Right.
So I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see if they get back and maybe the effort by the ranchers and the people from Walker's Nation yielded a somewhat viable well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that whole not telling everyone we have 6 weeks of water left was a bad idea. I'm really glad Alicia defied her on that.
That may yield some conflict when Madison and Victor and Walker get back to the ranch too.
We shall see.
Yeah, pretty shortly, I think.
Yeah. Season 12.
Episode 12.
I'm sorry. Episode 12. End of season. Right? No, why were they saying next week is the
no,
final?
it's not. It's not the finale.
It's not.
No, it's going to be another double finale.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
I think they're going to run right up to Walking Dead proper.
They are. It looks like October 15th is our double season finale.
And then 22nd is...
Yep.
Yep.
So 1 week after that. Yeah.
All Walking Dead all the time.
Oh, I can't wait.
I know. I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like it's been a year since I've seen it. I know it ended, earlier this year, but it feels like it was last October when I last saw it.
So I have to ask, and maybe then we can start to wrap things up. But if you binge season 7, are you going to watch 7-1 again?
Why? Why would I do that?
Well, I am kind of thinking, do I really want to put myself through watching Glenn and Abraham get killed again?
It's coming.
Right, but I don't know if I want to watch it again, even though it's an integral part of binging season 1. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. It didn't make me quit the series, but I don't know that I necessarily need to watch it again.
There were so many good things in 7, though.
Oh no, I'm just talking about 7-1. I'm not talking about the whole season 7. There's part of me, and I probably won't do it, because I am definitely one of those watch everything and in order.
Yeah,
But,
I think I would have to watch it all.
Yeah.
Just, next season is going to be so Negan centric as far as our all out war that I want to see as much of him as possible. And if that means having to relive those 2 deaths, just to remember how much of a bad guy he is, no matter how charming he is. Got to do it.
I think you're right.
But I think you can skip the trash people.
I know. I wish I could. I
know.
Just fast forward through everything that Pollyanna McIntosh is in.
Yeah. No more Garbage Pail Kids and Madam Trashy.
Oh.
Yeah, I just flashed on that episode and I'm just like, Really? She is a good actress outside of Jadis.
Yeah, we still have to watch her movie.
We do.
Yeah.
I watched one of them. I would like to see the second one to see if it was a fluke, but I don't think it was. She seems like a really good gal, and Jadis was just an unfortunate part.
All right, we are at 1 hour and 8 minutes.
That makes up.
I'm just gonna say, Madistrand.
Vixen.
All right, so the same time next week.
Same bat channel.
All right. Everybody have a good week.
Good night.